Hey guys, it's Linda Winter with another Winter Designs project. All right, so I have a new template that I've already shown in one of my videos. This is a microwave bag. What is a microwave bag? A microwave bag is to put into the microwave whatever kind of food, and I will give you some examples. I shouldn't say whatever, but lots of foods that you can cook nicely, more healthy, faster, easier. They're actually going to taste better, and it takes a whole lot less time than if you used your oven or if you use your stove. So I've already filmed a video doing popcorn. Popcorn bags are kind of a cool thing that we don't talk a whole lot about, but I love the idea of fresh, healthy popcorn that you can personalize with your own flavors and those kinds of things. So I have a video on that, so check that out. This is the popcorn bag. You can see the boxed bottom. This guy here comes from my Box It, Square It, Place It template. There's 5 of these, but I do have on my website a bundle that has the microwave bag template. It has the Box It, Square It template. That's the 1.5. That's right inside of here. That's actually the one that I used here. That gives me this finish. It's a little bit less than 3 inches here, but we've got a 1.5 and a 1.5. That guy there, so it's fatter, more like a triangular shape. When it goes into the microwave, it's going to pop. And then I use that template here as well. And then this, the 2x5, that does the strap. We're going to use this for the potato bag. We're going to use this too, but we're not going to use it to box the corners. Although I will talk about boxing the corners for some of the options when we get to some of the different foods. So we're basically going to be starting with this. Why do we want this template? Well, it's got the no slip backing. My gray backing here, no slipping, no kidding. When it grabs, there's my fabric, and 2 layers of batting. Do you see how when I move that template, all of that stuff is staying with it? So no slipping, no kidding. Let me get the popcorn bags out of the way. You're going to have, when you buy the bundle, you'll have directions, access for the directions. This is for the potato bag, which is for corn and a bunch of other stuff. And then I have the popcorn bag because we're making these totally different. So you'll have those emailed to you or have access on my website for those. The microwave bag, this guy here, you can place it this way on the fold. That's what I've done when we look at this. And you can see it's not just for potatoes. We can place it that way, or we can also place the fold down here. Now it's 11 inches by 12, which means we could do 22 by 24, or 11 by 24, or 22 by 12. There's lots of options you could do with this based on how you use the template. If you had your fabric here wider, you know, then we could place it here. You can see how I just barely have enough fabric to be able to fold from here to here with our fold. So I don't have enough. We're going to be placing it this way. But know that when you make this, instead of it being more this way, we can change the dimensions out if we want to. I love playing with fabric, so you've got lots of options there. So I'll show you some fabric options. But we want to talk about 100% cotton. On everything that we're doing, 100% cotton fabric. No metallics in there. That's not safe for the microwave. 100% cotton batting, no scrim. This is made for the microwave. They will have batting online and in stores that will say 100% cotton batting, and then down below it'll have with a layer of scrim or a scrim base or a scrim glue base or something like that. So you're better off to stick with something that is advertised and made for the microwave. I sell this on my website, but you can buy it wherever. This is 100% cotton batting, no scrim. The no scrim is the big deal. Your threads, we've got lots of options for threads. Again, I have them on my website, so you don't have to do any searching. Here's Gutermann. I've got a larger and a smaller spool. I've got Sewology. There's a larger and a smaller spool, and then I've got a huge spool. All of these are 100% cotton. Then I also have YLI. I don't even know if this is still available, but I bought a bunch of this stuff at the trade shows, and this is 100% cotton as well. So you want to make sure when you're using your threads, not embroidery thread, not serger thread. So this and the popcorn bag, neither of them are safe to use on your or to use your serger unless you're swapping out the serger thread. you can take these and wind up 4 bobbins and put them on top of your serger thread and then tie that off for your serger. But I'm going to recommend you just do this on the sewing machine. So I want to show you how to make with the potato bag. The potato bag, again, we're going to talk about all the things you can put inside later. We need, and again, I'm looking at my 11 here and 24 this way at least. And I've got my outside fabric, I've got my lining fabric, I've got my batting. What do I like for lining? For the lining, I love using sheets. I love using all of the pillowcases. I love using those materials. Why? You've got them around at home, probably with some stains on them. So it's free. 1, 2, it's good for the environment. 3, they have been washed. These fabrics, not your batting, but these fabrics, you will want to wash these before you make this, because when you use this, if you do stick anything, I've got croissants in here, this isn't going to make a mess because I have them wrapped in paper towels. But if you had some cheese Danish in here with some cheese inside in the paper towel and something happened and it came out on top of here, you're going to want to wash it. If I haven't washed the fabrics beforehand, I may have shrinkage that's going to be inconsistent. This is flannel. Flannel is 100% cotton most of the time, and this is cotton, but these two might shrink at different amounts, so you want to wash them beforehand. So sheets, sheets and pillowcases have already been washed, most likely, because you're using them. Grab your stash that you have of all of those things that you've got in the closet that you might have been donating. You all know how much I like to do those kinds of things, so this is a great project for that as well. All right, so what we want to do is, again, 100% cotton batting. I'm going to take my fabrics, I'm going to fold them in half, and I want to line up my edges. If you're comfortable with the rotary cutter and you have had lots of success cutting bulk, then I'm going to take my batting 2 layers, I'm going to take my lining fabric 2 layers, and I'm going to take my 100% cotton fabric for the outer, and I'm going to line all these edges up. Do you see how they're not lined up and they're not lined up? If I were to cut that, nothing would line up consistently as I go to stitch these together. It's a bag, so it's not the end of the world if you cut it and it doesn't line up accurately, but hey, if we're going to do it, we may as well. Can you see here how those aren't all lined up? Now the batting is really okay because you can, even with your batting, cut it like a 1/2 inch or 3/8 inches smaller overall so that it doesn't take up any of that seam. Totally up to you. So if you're comfortable doing what I'm going to be doing here, terrific. If not, then cut these 2 layers at one time and cut that layer at another time, or just cut this one, cut this one. I'm going to place all of these here, and we want to make sure that our batting, when we go to cut, does not slip and slide. All of your fabrics normally will grab to each other and not slip and slide, but batting, I can't promise that. So I'm going to be watching as I go to cut, and you can see here I've got not everything lined up exactly, but I'm okay with it. All right, I'm lining this up to the edge. I want to make sure that I have fabric enough here, enough plenty there, and then my batting you can see over here. There's that edge of the batting. I'm real close to the edge there, so I'm going to scoot this over just a little bit, and then we'll double check on the other side. Again, if you are kind of a cheater like me and you like to get her done, then this is the way to go. If you're not so comfortable with it, then do those individual layers by each other, by themselves. I'm going to make a cut, and I'm going to do this wrong because I want you to see when I have all this bulk. So I'm going to put my hand here, and when I go to cut, I want you to see those jagged edges. Can you see those jagged edges? What we need to do when we're cutting is we need to push really hard down on top of here to get all of those layers. When I go to cut, that's going to allow me to trim all of those layers off. And you can see I've got a cleaner cut here as I go. I'm going to cut those. You're putting a lot of pressure because we've got a lot of thickness here. I don't know if you can see how thick, but this is really raised up. I'm going to put my hand here and I'm going to go in front. And again, I wouldn't recommend that you do this unless you're really comfortable. And I also don't want to move this because I want you all to be able to see what I'm doing, but I would want to scoot right there. Can you see how much there is? There's a lot of material there that we're cutting. All right, now I'm going to watch all of this and all of this as I turn. Normally I have no big issues at all when I turn this, but I want to make sure that my batting, do you see how my batting is staying together? If you're working with slippery fabrics, PUL, out. Polyurethane laminate. We're not going to use it for here, but just as an example, if we have the slippery sides together, when I turn it, they'll slide. So we want to make sure when we turn this template that everything sticks together. And again, I'm putting a lot of pressure on here as I go to cut to make sure I get a nice clean cut. It's the seam allowance that we've got that inside, so it's not that big of a deal, but we want it to be consistent. I'm going to put this aside for a minute though, because I want to show you what I mean when we slide the fabric around. So let me grab another piece of fabric. And I want to show you when I go to cut, I'm going to cut the straps for this, and we're doing French fries. You wouldn't really do French fries, but here's some potato fabric. And when I go to cut, I'm going to go ahead and just cut off. Do you see this guy here? This is our strap. I'm going to cut, and when I go to cut this, what you'll see is those fabrics staying together. If I had 8 layers of cotton fabric, they would all stay together. It's the batting that you're wanting to be careful of. So if I wanted to do 2 straps, or if I'm making a bunch of these for assembly line because you're going to be selling these or giving them away, you could stack up 8 fabrics and cut. And you see how that moves? That's the beauty of the no slip material on the back. This 2x5 is the perfect size. Believe it or not, it's small. It's the perfect size for just the little strap for right here. When we pop this into the microwave, this is going to be really, really hot. If you pick this up, you're going to have the steam that's coming out on you. You're going to have the heat from this, and you might even burn yourself. So instead, we're going to grab this. You could put another one on there too if you wanted to grab, if you wanted to do that. I like the one so that I'm not putting my hand over it and risking the idea of that steam coming at me. So you've got something that this is going to go on top of. So when I open up that microwave, I put my finger in here and I pull. And now I'm not worried about any of that burning me. I can plop this down wherever it is and let it cool down. The steam is going to come out. You can, when it's ready and you know you can touch it, you can fold this back over and you can let that steam come out. But I would leave it closed just to keep all that moisture and everything inside of there. What makes these potato bags so great is that 100% cotton batting. It's going to keep the steam inside and keep everything moist, especially when you're doing potatoes, because we want the potatoes to be really soft, but we want that skin to be really good too. So there's kind of a, cool way to be able to do that. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to layer what we need for our order of sewing. We're going to be sewing basically like a pillowcase. So I'm going to grab this guy here. We're going to put right sides together. If you are doing the sheet or you're doing the pillowcase or muslin or broadcloth or any of those, there's not really a right or a wrong side to that. But if you are doing a patterned fabric, something that has just a little bit of a modeled kind of a thing would look really nice. We want to have right sides together. So we're going to line all of those layers up. I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to put that batting right over here. So this is one way for you to be able to sew all of these together. When you sew all these together, this is the one that we're going to do. We're going to sew all this together. We're going to leave a little bit of an opening here. But I want to show you another option. It's the one that I did, or the style that I did here. You can see there's some stitching on here, channel stitching. If y'all are good at channel stitching, terrific. But if you're not so good at it, if you're not good at guesstimating, or you don't want to put that adapter onto your foot of your sewing machine, I've got some new rulers. If you watched any of my Darla videos, Darla, who did such a great job on all of the dumplings, and we did 5 videos together, Darla suggested this ruler. And I have rulers in different sizes that I've used before, but she wanted a 10-inch because it's just the right length to be able to, when you do any kind of quilting on here. So we can do channel stitching, and I'm going to do a little bit. We can also turn it this way and basically do hashes. As we stitch, you'll see I'm going to move the ruler along as I go. And I'll do a video on these rulers later on with more options. But we don't have to go this way. We can go this way. We could go this way, and we're stitching and stitching and stitching and stitching, and then you can come back and do basically, a nice diagonal kind of thing. But these come in a 1x10, a 1.5 by 10, or 1.25 by 10, and a 1.5 by 10. And if you've noticed, all of my templates I've highlighted with a metallic marker. Metallic markers let you see, you can see here, it's hard to see that says Winter Designs. You can see that there are inch markings here. Let's take a look, because they are not only inch, but they're 1/2 inch markings too. If you know you're always going to be doing a 2 by 10, a 2 inch by whatever it is that you wanted to do by 1 inch, this is 1 inch, or a 2 by 1.5, or 2 by 1 1/4, you could go in and highlight any of these 1/2 inch marks if you wanted to do that. But these are just the perfect length. So I want to do a little bit of the stitching just so you can see how that's done. If you watched any of the Darla videos, then she used one of the other rulers, and I had the rulers made while she was here so that she could take a set home with her too. You can pin or you can clip any of that excess if you want to. It doesn't matter that much. At the sewing machine, this is meant for me to use with your foot. That foot is going to give you an additional 1/4 inch seam allowance, but you could use your zipper foot, you could use whatever it is you want. We're not going to be doing this on a long arm, and we're not going to be doing this with a darning foot or with the free motion foot itself. All right, so right over here, if you look, you can see I've got basically a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch over here. So I'm going to move this ruler, or it's basically a 1/4 inch from this line, from this guy right here. But you could, if you want them to be a little bit closer when you place it, you could go right against, can you all see that line that's there? You can go right against that line. But I've gone a little bit wider, so I'm going to give myself basically like a 1/4 inch seam here. As I get to the edge of my project, I'm going to start right at the edge, and if you want to lock your stitches in, you're welcome to do so, but that's going to be part of the seam. I'm just going to hold in place a little bit, and I do like a longer stitch for this, about a 3/0. As I go to stitch, you can work from the left or the right, totally up to you. As I stitch, I'm just going to take my time, and I'm looking right over here at that stitch to keep my ruler. My fabric is hanging down in front of me. I've got my table on. It's a smaller table, so I'm going to be moving the ruler as I go, and I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to my sewing machine foot. I'm watching right over here as I go. I'm looking to make sure that I've got that ruler where I want it to be. And when I get right to about there, I'm going to stop and I'm going to move that ruler down. And again, I'm watching down here. As I continue to stitch, I can put my needle down and stitch down this way a little bit to just kind of guesstimate, and I can turn this way if I want. You would, of course, clip this side, but if you believe in going in the same direction, you know, it's one of those rules of kind of, you know, do you like to go in the same direction or not? Totally up to you. Do you see where I'm going to put this ruler now? I'm looking on the other side. There's about my 1/4 inch, and I'm right down here. It's totally up to you which way to do this. I'm going to put the needle down, lift up the foot, make sure that that thread is going underneath my foot, because that always comes back and bites me. And you notice I've got arthritis in my hand, so my fingers don't do a great job of those kinds of things anymore. If you've got a sewing machine that cuts the threads, you know, hey, take advantage of it. All right, and do you see what I'm doing? I'm just stitching along, watching right over here. Before I was working on the left side, now I'm working on the right side. If you do have a table, make sure your fabric isn't hanging up like mine was right there. So just make sure that you've got that out of the way. And as we continue to stitch, we're going to get these easy channels that give us straight stitching. So you can see with this, basically, I've got my 1.5 inches plus a 1/4 inch, plus a 1/4 inch. This is my 1.5 inches. Imagine how it would look with the 1.25 inches. And if you really wanted to do something that gave you a lot more than that inch, because the inch, you'd have the 1/4 inch, you could line this right up to the stitching. So, you know, it gives you a nice finish. That right there, we've done that a little bit larger. I have my batting and I have my fabric larger. I would finish all of my stitching. When I have this all finished, I'm going to fold that in half. And I'm going to take my microwave bowl cozy, my microwave bag cozy. Do y'all have my microwave bowls cozies that I have? I've got square and I've got rounded, and I have 9 different sizes. And I have 337 videos. No, not that many, but probably 17 videos on the microwave bowl cozies. So if you've seen anything I've done before, if you haven't seen those, go check them out, because there's lots of options. Notice what I'm doing. I'm looking right here at the edge. Because I've got my batting and my batting stitched really it's not completely stitched, but it will be easier for me to cut when I go to cut that off. So we would continue to cut all the way around here, and that gives me that pre-quilted, you know, just a little bit more texture if you like the idea of this not being all loosey-goosey inside. So that's an option for you too. And I will add on the website a bundle that includes all of these. These guys here have that no slip backing plus this on my website too. And you'll look for microwave bag when you find that. And that's how you'll be able to find that on the website. Okay, so let's get back to this. I'm going to grab this. We're going to use this because we've already cut that out. Even though I have French fries here, it started with potatoes. So we're going to do our strap for this, and then we're going to sew this together. You can use pins or clips. I've got those 3 layers. And remember, this one, I haven't done any pre-quilting on here. Totally up to you. Pins or clips, again, your choice. You decide what it is you want. And I want to make sure that my batting is lined up. Can you see how my batting is not lined up there? And you can do a little bit of kind of realigning with your hands, but just doing this alone, you know, helps to keep everything lined up there. And I actually like pins better just to keep all my layers together, but it's up to you. We're going to put a pin in one direction where we're going to leave that opening just to remind us that we need to stop. A 3-inch opening is pretty good for turning, so it's up to you where you want to put that. I like to have it on one of the longer sides just because I think it kind of hides into where that fold is going to come over, that fold at the top. And I don't know if y'all saw that, I just stabbed myself good. So when we do the fold, I want to show you 2 options. We're going to do a fold like this, really like 3 options. I'll show you a bunch of options, but the way to stitch it down, there's several different options. Okay, I'm going to put my pin going this way because that's where I'm going to stop to leave that turning area. At the sewing machine, I like to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance at this point later on when we go to do the top stitching. I'm going to pull this over. You can see how I'm right along that edge. I like as much of the bag to be available for me to put inside. And remember too that I can use this template going this way, but I can also, when I go to cut, I can move the template a little bit and make this bag bigger. The problem with making it bigger is your microwave may not be able to accommodate. This has to sit on that rotating part of your microwave and turn without hitting anything. That's one of the reasons why I like that short little strap, the handle there too. If we had something bigger, it might be hitting the walls as it spins. But this right here, that's the seam allowance that I like to use there. But right here, we're going to use the 1/4 inch. You can use basically whatever foot you like, whatever foot you're comfortable with. And remember, we've got our 100% cotton thread. And we're going to start, and remember when I scooted that batting, if you push too much, you'll get a little bit more excess like I just did there. And I've got my needle. When I was working on a different project, I moved my needle, so I'm going to get it back over to the center, and we'll fix that when we come back around to it. Now, I'm not going to have you all watch all of this, so we will stop as I get around. When I get close to that opening, then we'll come back and I'll talk about what we did here. All right, so we finished pinning, and this right here is going to be my turning area. But what I want to do too, since we're going to the sewing machine, we're going to do this strap as well. So with this strap, we're basically going to be folding, not quite in half, because it's 2 inches. I'm going to fold that over and I'm going to top stitch. You can do that at the ironing board if you want to, but I'm going to go ahead and grab the stiletto. And I would recommend you do it on the flat surface, but it still works. So you can see I'm just giving this a good press. I love a good finger press, and that's what this part of the tool does. We're going to fold this over, and I've got a bug flying around me in the studio. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and give this a good press here, and I'm just eyeballing it. It's a strap. We're going to fold this over again, and we can kind of get the idea that these are potatoes, and then we have French fries for our fabric. All right, so we're going to stitch this guy first, and I'm going to stitch the edges together first, and we'll stitch along here. So my seam allowance, you know, a 2.4, 2.5, something like that. And let me change my seam allowance a little bit, and I want to go right along the edge. I'm going to move my needle over just a little. I'm going to stitch across the edge here. We're going to go back up this next side, and then we're going to stitch this together. What do I mean by stitching together? I'm just going to stitch my two edges together after I cut those threads. You've got a couple different ways that you can attach this. You can put this in your turning area if you want later on, or we can add this to the bag as we're stitching it together. It's really up to you. You know, if you want to do the two straps instead of the one, I like the one, but you can do two straps, so you would make another one as well. And I'm right along that edge when we're stitching. All right, we're going to go back to the cutting table for a second. Cut those threads. All right, so this is our turning area. I'm going to wait to put it in later because I want to figure out placement. You can see this one doesn't have a strap. I love the strap because it's just really practical. This one, you can see how here it's a little bit further above where this is open, but I want to show you a couple different ways to figure out this. When I turn this sideways, you can see there's still fabric inside of here. It's really right to here where this fold is. With this one, I've got from here to here where there's a fold, but we can even do it so this doesn't even stitch down. And if we look at these two, this one has corn in it that's a little bit higher up, but you can still see this one's a little bit bigger based on our fold. So I'm not going to add the strap now because I want to figure out the placement afterwards. So we're going to be placing it right inside of here somewhere when we get all of this turned right sides out. All right, so we're going to stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to move that needle back into my center position, and I'm going to change my stitch length to, well, we'll leave the stitch length about the 2.5, 2.4, 2.6, whatever you like. All right, I'm coming up on that pin that I have. So right about here, I'm just going to back stitch or just hold that in place, whichever you like. And I'm going to give myself about 2.5, 3 inches. We want to have that turning area not be so huge that we've got all of that to close, but not so small that it's going to be harder to stitch up. All right, I've locked in place, and I'm going to stitch around. We're going to fast forward because you don't need to see me doing this in detail. All right, we're going to go back to the cutting table, and we're going to trim off those corners. I don't have a whole lot of bulk here, so I don't feel the need to trim out my seams, but you could use pinking shears if you wanted to. Again, I talked about even using the template and cutting the batting. You know, basically you're going to cut along, you know, we've got our fold here. You're going to cut along here, and then when you go to cut that side of the batting, you can actually scoot the template over so that the batting is a little bit thinner this way. So if you wanted to do that, that would give you a little bit less. You'd stitch this side and you'd stitch this side. This wouldn't actually get caught in the seam. If you're doing channel stitching afterwards, that would be great, but totally up to you. I don't think this is that much bulk, so I'm not that concerned about it. But if your machine can't handle it, that's one way to do it. And again, you can trim off all that batting as well. So my machine doesn't need that, and I don't have, you know, I mean, it's a fairly expensive machine, fairly nice machine, but a basic machine will be able to do that as well. All right, so here is my opening. What I'm going to do is reach inside between my lining and my outer fabric, right side. So I'm going to go into the corner, and I'm going to put my finger here into that corner, Do you see I've got my finger here? I can even take the stiletto and do it this way. I'm basically pulling that corner. And we're just going to turn right sides out. And again, I can go in here and just push in that corner. I'm going to grab, before I even turn anymore, I'm going to grab my stiletto and just push that corner out. The stiletto does such a great job of giving us crisper, sharper corners. I'm not going to do, have you all seen that method where they take a needle and thread and you've sewn the thread in and you've got that thread and you pull it? I don't know if you all know what I'm talking about. It's really cool, but it's extra work. I'm not going to do that. This is a potato bag, or I'm going to use it for corn. All right, so we've done those two corners. I'm going to reach in and I'm going to grab that other corner that's further away. I'm going to take the stiletto and go right inside here. It just makes it a little bit easier because we've got a long piece of batting with two pieces of fabric. So I want to get that corner pushed out. So we're pushing out that corner. I'm going to start to pull a little bit more. I've got one more corner that I need to do. And that's right over here. So I'm going to take my stiletto and go inside. Find that corner. See how much harder it is for me to find it rather than putting my finger there and getting that stiletto? It's not a big deal, but if you're making 50 of these for an event where you're going to be giving these away or selling them, or it's Christmas for everybody gets a potato bag, you get a bag, you get a bag, you get a bag. You know, that amount of time that I just did there, it saves quite a bit. Okay, so we've got our potato bag. Roll your edges a little bit. We want to get those seams as full and as open as possible. This is where it's a really great time to go to your ironing board and press. That's my opening. We'll leave that alone for now. You can, instead of using the iron, you can use the stiletto once you've gotten everything pressed out, and you can do a good press here. But I still want to work at this. We want these to be as sharp and crisp as possible, all that batting and the fabric lined up, because that's what's going to make the edges line up consistently. You know, it's little things, just taking a little bit more time, that will make that difference for your project. So we're just going to give a little bit of a press. I would go to the iron and press this out, but because we're doing this on camera, we're going to look at this. This is our opening. And you can see if I pull, it's not really closing because I don't have a whole lot of seam allowance there. So I pulled a little bit. This is where I have batting too. The batting is on this side. So I can just kind of give this right there, line it up, look at it and see if that's pretty good, and then give this a good press. And that looks pretty good on this side. We're going to flip that over and look at right there. Can you see how ugly that is? Right there. So let me flip it the other way so you can see. Do you see how that just puckers out too much? So we're going to line that up a little bit better, and we're going to give that a good press too. I'm going to right now go to the sewing machine and stitch that closed, but remember our strap? That's where we're going to decide, do we want to add that strap before we close that in? Okay, so we have lots of options here for closing. So we can have this bag where we're looking at, let's grab my tools. Do you see this? I can place this where it's way up here, and I say, gosh, that's a lot. And then I can take this and say, let me give a little bit more. Do you see that edge right there? And I can turn this to here. What that allows you to do is make this side, let's line that up to that edge. Let's line that up to there. Do you see where that is? And I'm going to line this up along one of my lines on my mat. And I'm going to now take this, I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to bring this over here. And do you see how I didn't have that folded consistently? It's much wider here. So this is the strap, and this is the box at square. Place it template. We're placing this where we want it to be. So if we place this right here, we can do that. We give it a little bit of a press there for a minute. And let's take a look at what we've got. We've got this lined up pretty consistently, and now we can look to see, do we want to use this again to see how much we fold that over? It's not going to be enough. We can do where we're using just this. Let's put this inside of here. And do you see how that, when I bring this over, I can feel that right now, and let's look to see what we've got here. What we're going to do with these two, if you're getting the bundle of templates, use these guys here to help you out. We can place this here, and we can fold that over. And again, I'm going to give this just a little bit of a finger press there, looking there. And then I'm just going to move this down over here, and we'll give that a press there as well. So that's an option for you. You can decide. Let's go look at what we have here, that overlap that's here. I'm going to get this out so you can see that. And do you see all of that overlap? All that overlap. If I stitch this down and I've got big stuff that I want to get in here, I'm going to have a harder time. Do you see how I've got that big overlap in here? I'm going to have a harder time getting things in and out. What's nice about having a big overlap is that the steam is going to stay inside, but it is going to be harder to get things in and out. So what do? We can, of course, scoot this back a little bit and make this bigger. Make sure that this fits in your microwave if you do that. We could scoot this up and then bring that down a little bit. So you can play with it. That makes it narrower, and you can see I don't have nearly as much overlap. Use the tools that you want. Decide what it is you're going to be putting in here. Or the other option is we can just stitch this here and here closed and leave this open. And when you put whatever inside of there, then all of that stuff goes inside, and then you put it in the microwave like that. So you figure out, what are you going to be cooking? What is going to go inside of here? So I'm going to go ahead and show you this method first. We're going to put some things inside of there, and then I'm going to do this method for you here. So you have those options. Because either way, you're going to be basically doing the same process. I'm going to be stitching this and this by itself. If I were doing this, I'd stitch all those layers. But again, if you've got a more basic sewing machine and you're not sure that you can stitch through all those layers, it's certainly easier to stitch that down and that down before we stitch that over. But this also lets you decide how it is that you want everything to go in. Now remember our opening is right over here. Right over here. So if I'm going to put this here, now we want to make sure that we place this inside somewhere. I don't want, if this is about the positioning that I want, I don't want this way down. I don't just want this way up. I think right about there is pretty good. Does the strap really matter that much? No, it just matters that it's inside and it's caught inside. Do you see how much I've got hanging inside of there? So we're going to do that first. We'll add that strap. I'm going to reposition this way. We're going to come back to getting those seams where we like it. What I love about sewing is that you can kind of do whatever. You make these things personalized for your needs, for your uses. That's kind of the cool thing about it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go from this side, and I'm going to turn this over. And we'll place this right about there. Okay, I'm going to put a pin here. You can do a clip or a pin, totally up to you. There we go, and we're going to stitch this opening, that turning area down. 2.5, 2.5, 2.4, anything around there is good. And right along that edge, because that's where we're going to be stitching when we do close all this. I'm going to back stitch once, twice, and the third time. And let's look to see where that opening is, way down here. And we'll back stitch there. Okay, so we've got our strap in. All right, I'm going to cut those threads because we don't need any of that in the way. And you would really cut from the back and from the front. If you wanted to use fray check, that's always a great thing. Okay, so we're back to here again, and we're going to look to see where we were. And I think I want to put this down a little bit more and use whatever tools that you have at your disposal. I'm going to take this guy here, and I'm going to look. Do you see how right about there? I'm using that edge there. We're going to line that up on my map, and I'm going to place this here, and we're going to scoot that down to, and you could top stitch on here if you wanted to, if that would help you out some. Now, does it have to be an exact science? No, but it's nice to have things that help you out a little bit. I move this over, and we're going to scoot this over a little bit there too, and we'll put that up a little bit. And I think we're pretty good there. So we'll put a clip here. We're going to put a clip over here, and then I'm going to double check and see that I like my placement. If I don't like my placement, then I reposition. Okay. So at this point, you can see the overlap that I have if I'm going to sew this part down. If I leave that open, then I've got lots of room to get inside. But look how small this area is. If I'm putting corn in here, if I'm putting potatoes in here, I don't have a lot of room if I'm leaving this open. If I have this sewn down, then there's plenty of room. So what am I going to do? I'm going to scoot this up a little bit. So again, you choose what it is that works for you. I'm going to go right here with this, and I'm going to look to see here. And I'm actually going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And do you see how I'm just using the two of them and repositioning? Okay. I'm going to put a clip over here while we're there, so I've got that locked in. And I look to see, I basically got this length here, and I've got this width here. We're going to scoot this over. We're going to scoot that over. I'm going to look to see if that's pretty consistent in the placement. All right, you can overthink this, so don't worry about that. Okay, we're going to now have all this room for the corn, the potatoes, the whatever it is. And when we flop this over, we can decide, do we want to have this here? So there's just a little bit of an overlap. We can leave that open. We can have that down here, whatever it is that you like. All right, we're going to stitch here. We're going to stitch here. You can, instead of starting with the fold that has that bulk, start right here and stitch down. That's what I'm going to do, because this, I want to make sure that all of that is flattened out. You see how I'm just pulling my fingers inside of there and kind of pulling to make sure that's nice and consistent. All right, we're going to move our needle position so that we're right along the edge. And you can see that corner wasn't poked out quite as much, so I would, if I were making these and selling these, probably go in and poke that out, but I'm good. All right, so at the sewing machine, I'm going to start a little beyond, or a little beyond that, and we're going to go back stitch. I'm going to get the edge of my foot, but move my needle position over some. We're going to stitch, and I'm going to go back stitch, and I'm going to back stitch again. We're going to have a lot of strain on here, I guess, maybe a lot of tension on there where that's being opened and closed, opened and closed. And same thing down here. I'm going to back stitch a couple times. We're going to do this on the other side. And because I pulled that out, I'm good at starting at that corner there. But again, I'm going to go a little bit past the hump jumper, the jump humper. Y'all know I don't know what that thing is called. And you can see I don't use it. So, but I've heard those are really wonderful for what it is we're doing here. If I don't sell it, I try not to use it because, you know, then I'm showing you something that you don't have potentially. When I get to where we're going to go over the strap, we've already secured the strap in really well, so I don't have to worry a lot about that. But I'm still going to back stitch just to be sure. And we're going to go a little bit beyond and go back again. Okay. So I want to grab some of the different things that I thought you all might put in this bag. But let's take a look at what could be a finished bag at this point. Cut your threads, and this could be a finished potato bag if you wanted it to be. So I've already gone through the idea of this bag being stuffed with whatever it is. I've got some threads there that you would want to cut. Top stitch along here if you want to do that. So imagine we've stuffed some things in there and we just put them into the microwave down like that. So I've got corn in here, 4 ears of corn. I've got 2 croissants in here. I wrapped the croissants in paper towel just because if you've got croissants with something inside of there, if you've got cheese Danish and you're not going to put in there for a lot, but you just want it to warm up, this the paper towel is going to help with that. The corn also, you know, if you wrap the corn in the paper towels too, that makes it a really nice kind of an option as well. Let me grab some of the other veggies and different things that you can put in here too. Okay, so it's a potato bag. So potatoes, of course, you know, these are the baking potatoes, but you can get the little potatoes, these little guys here. You know, these, you can put however many that you want in there. This is a sweet potato. All of those things can go in here. You do not need to wrap them in paper towel, and you do not need to pierce them. Piercing is totally up to you. There are people that say pierce and then other people that say don't. You decide. But what you do want to do is wash them and scrub them before you stick them in here. That's a biggie. And let them dry. We don't want moisture, wetness, that kind of thing inside of here. So don't do any of that. If you're going to add salt or any kind of, you know, seasoning that is you know, a powder kind of thing, not anything spritzing, not anything wet, you can do that. Just realize you're probably going to need to wash your bag afterwards. I like to season afterwards. That's kind of my thing anyway, because what I like might be different than what somebody else likes. So potatoes are great for that. I mentioned corn. You're going to peel the corn, you're going to take the corn, husk the corn, whatever you call it, but corn on the cob, we're going to take all of this off. And again, you can take a corn and wrap it in a paper towel, and you can see my corn is getting kind of used. It's dried out a little bit because it's been sitting in front of the cameras for a couple days now because we've been trying to get this video filmed. So the corn in the paper towels, if you want to do that, play with it. You know, that's the fun about it. Broccoli, if you want to steam broccoli or any other veggies that you like to steam. And again, you can decide, do we want to put that in the paper towel or not, but wash and dry. And this, I probably would put in a paper towel just because you can see I've got all this green that's coming off of here. That means that's going to be in my bag. Is it a big deal if it gets dirty? Again, I can wash it, but will those things come out? I don't want to take a chance. So you decide, and you know how you like to steam your veggies and which veggies you like to steam anyway. I got squash. Do I make butternut squash? No, I don't have a clue how to do it. But I'm thinking that might even, you know, if you're steaming, is that how you steam butternut squash? I don't know. I haven't done any research on it. But this whole squash could go in there and I could stick it. See how I've got that open? That opening lets me put it in there, and then this would go face down in the microwave so it could spin. The bag open will accommodate something big like that. Y'all will have to let me know if that's something you do. All right, so you saw the croissants that I had. You can do croissants, you can do rolls, you can do buns. You can see I like to shop the discounts, you know, the sales that they have. But you can put these in here if you're, you know, doing hot dogs and you want everybody to have a nice steamy, soft bun. This isn't going to be hard like those buns that you put in the microwave. You know how they get really hard immediately? This is going to taste and feel really good inside of the bag. So you can do any kind of breads. If you bake your own bread, that's a really nice option. I love the idea of these little guys. I haven't tried them, but these little pretzel kind of things, those I think would be really great inside of there too. Philip and I are going to play with some of this stuff and we'll let you know. All right, so speaking of things that Philip and I are going to play with, I grabbed some other things too. I cannot promise you that these will work, but I think they will, and I think this is going to be really cool. I can't eat bread, so none of these I'm going to be able to enjoy, but these super pretzels, they're made to go in the microwave, so put them in a paper towel, stick them in a bag, and see how that goes. We'll try these out, and I'll get back to you on that. Mozzarella sticks, all kinds of those, you know, frozen food kind of meals. I think this definitely wrapped up in a paper towel, and again, think if it's got marinara sauce and it's got all kinds of sticky stuff that's going to make a real mess, even with the paper towel, it may not be worth putting it in there. But I think mozzarella sticks, you may have to wash it. That might work. Biscuits with the chicken. Biscuits without the chicken. Biscuits that you've made. I really cannot wait to hear from you guys as to what things you ended up putting in here and how it worked. So you'll have to keep me posted on that. But these are ones that I picked up, and again, I'm going to try these and Philip's going to do the tasting and let me know how it goes. All right, so back to this. If you have something big and you want to leave this as is, then we've got this ready to go and you can stuff that full. But what I want to do is, again, fold this over and decide how much. Now, my tools that I have that I used for measuring are somewhere else at this point underneath all this mess. So I'm going to guesstimate. There's the opening where it's been sewn closed. So I'm going to look and let's see if we can get over to the table. And I'll use my table, the measurements on the mat. I'm lining up here. And I'm going to basically be lining up here, and we're close enough. I'm going to put a clip here and a clip there, and we're going to stitch those down. And do you see how close I am? I actually am going to move this a little bit more. See how there's not much of an opening there? So we're going to go an additional amount of space. You'll clear off your area where you can work and you don't have anything in your way. But I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple clips, and then I'll show you how we stitch that down. If you did the potato, or if you did the popcorn bag with me, we're a little bit different than the popcorn bag. Instead of stitching on the outside like we did for that, we're stitching on the inside with the popcorn bag. And see all these threads? You would cut all of those before you actually do this, but I'm gonna go ahead and just get her done for you guys. I'm gonna start at the corner, but I really would probably start here, but I've got all those threads. I'm gonna reach inside and I'm gonna grab, and let's go backwards. I'm going underneath my foot and then pulling away. And again, I'm right at the edge. I'm gonna put that needle down, get that thread out of the way there if I can. We don't want any of that coming back to bite us. I've already got enough threads as it is. We'll back stitch a little bit, just on that edge. And we've got all this bulk that we're going to be coming up on. And again, trim the threads so you don't have to worry about trying to cut those out. And if you want to use the stiletto to hold all your fabric in place, then definitely do so. And I'm just back stitching over this whole area. If you're not comfortable back stitching, or you don't like the results that you're getting, like that I'm getting, then go ahead and turn your needle and your project around and go in the opposite direction. All right, we're going to go over here on this side, and I would definitely, for a real project, I'd be back to my table and lining this up and making sure that everything is still in the right position, just to make sure we're good to go. All right, we're going to get underneath that foot. And if you've got a foot that you can lift up underneath, because we've got a lot of bulk here, you know, then that's definitely something that you want to take advantage of. All right, I'm going to stitch a little bit. We're going to go back over. We're going to do this again. Again, the strap has been sewn down several times, but we're just reinforcing. And I've got a lot of threads that I would want to cut, but you get the idea. So let's take a look. This is the amount of opening. You can see I've got a good amount there to get things inside, but it's still, from here to here, it's still got enough of a coverage. So when I've got something inside of here, we're going to put our materials, our food inside, then place it down here. Again, grab your microwave, that rotating dish if you want to make sure that this is going to fit in here. Remember, it's going to be sitting up because you're going to have things inside of there. So you can see even the difference in this size that has corn in it and the size that's flat. But you get the idea of that. So stick that in the microwave. I'm going to have on my website, I'm going to have when you purchase these directions for you, and another sheet too. You'll have 2 sets of directions. Well, really 2 sets of 2 sets. So this is for potatoes, corn, that kind of thing. Then I have one for popcorn. You're going to have one on how to make these. Then you're going to have another one how to use these. That one that's how to use them is going to be for somebody that is getting this as a gift, for somebody that you're selling this to, because how they use it will be very specific to fabric in the microwave. We do not stick this in the microwave by itself. So you'll have all kinds of details that I'm going to give you there. So there'll be 2 parts to the handouts. So if you buy this potato bag, the template that gives you, the microwave bag template that gives you the opportunity to make potato bags and gives you the opportunity to make popcorn bags. So if you buy this, or if you buy this bundle, or this bundle, or this bundle, or this bundle. You can buy all of those as options. You'll be getting directions that will give you how to make potato bags, how to make popcorn bags, how to make them, and then how to use them. The how to use them, you can print those off and you can put them with when you make these to give away, when you make these to sell. So have fun making potato bags, have fun making popcorn bags, have fun with this. I just think this is a really quick, easy thing to do. I'm actually so excited about doing this. I've had several people that have seen this in the last couple of days. Make me one, make me one, make me one. And I'm thinking, why not make a bunch of these and sell these? Because there are really cute fabrics out there. Let me just really quick, I forgot to show you fabrics. Fabrics that just have food, fabrics that have, you know, veggies, bacon. We're not putting bacon in there, I don't really think, because you're going to have all that grease. Potato, potato, corn, corn, baked potatoes. Again, it's the idea. We're not going to put the stuffed potatoes probably in there. Put the potato in there and then add all those toppings on top of it. But I really think you're going to have a whole lot of fun playing around with fabrics, playing around with different styles. The template allows you to really play and make these work for whatever it is that you're going to be heating up in the microwave. And you're going to have great tasting food a whole lot faster. No waiting an hour for those potatoes to bake. No boiling that, you know, pot of water for waiting for the corn to be boiling. So it's a whole lot faster, and it's going to taste just as good, if not better, and healthier too. So thanks for watching. You can find this template and that set that I had for you on my website. You can look for microwave bag. Remember, I have microwave cozy, so we're going to type in the word bag too. Microwave bag, and when you go there, you'll see lots of options. You're going to, when you click on it, you'll see a drop down that'll give you lots of different things. So the bag itself, the bag with the strap, and then again, I'm going to have those 3 rulers on there as well. So there'll be some more options for you too. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this is a fun one for you, and let me know what you think. Bye.